The Messiah. No offense, Perdre, but that has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Why not me?
Have you met yourself? Perdre, you drink, you fight, you like to break people's arms just to hear the sounds they make.
Howdy, pilgrims, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Season 3 of Preacher vs. Preacher. It's a comparison companion where each week we get together and not only recap AMC's series Preacher, but we directly compare it to the 1990s comic it's based on by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. I'm Bill Sweeney, got my buddy Dom here.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back.
Oh, shit, there he is, folks.
I'm back.
And, you know, that's the intro.
There it is.
There it is. That's the hard intro.
So this week we'll be recapping and comparing episode 4 of season 3. I can't believe we're already almost halfway through season 3, Bill.
That's the nice thing about a 10-episode season.
Yeah.
It sneaks up on you.
Which is crazy. I feel like we just heard the news that it was coming on.
It does feel like that.
Yeah.
The weeks did go by pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe it's because we're enjoying it more this year.
I think that's exactly
that might be it, right?
Yep,
if you think about it, it's like, oh, those other seasons felt like like they dragged on and on and on. So, yeah. All right. So let's get into the official business real quick. I'm Bill, he's Dom. We did that. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, all those good places. Search for us wherever you want to go. If you don't like it where you are now, I guess, is that thing. Subscribe, rate, review. That helps the show grow. It helps us get out to more people. If you want to follow us on Twitter, Dom is at Dom_Torre, Torre. I'm at Wicked Theory. The show is at Preach vs. Preach. You can send us an email. We got a couple emails this week. pvp@wickedtheory.com. Sign it with your Twitter handle if you want to.
We'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, why not? People love shout outs. You like how the music has dropped off
I did.
like out of nowhere?
I did. It kind of caught me off guard.
I keep on meaning to adjust that. But hey, you know.
Fuck it.
It's a catchy tune. I hear it's burning up the charts.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. We were humming it.
Yeah, we were before. I might have to do a remix.
Might have to. It might pop up. Yeah. Who knows? We want your grandma stories if you got them. Your crazy grandma stories. And then, wow, we went through the intro pretty quick. I'm not used to this on this particular show. You know, when we do Wicked Theory, it's like the intros sometimes get...
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a much bigger cast and crew.
Yeah. And everybody's interrupting.
That's a round table.
Yeah, it's nutty hijinks.
Oh, yeah. We got people doing quotes. We got people fucking...
bits. They want to do bits in the first...
Steel.
Yeah, they want to do bits in the first minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, we're 12 minutes in.
I was going to just say that.
It's usually about 12 minutes in every time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But so the hook here, if you've never heard us before, is that we recap the show. We compare it against the book. This season, we're not doing a super heavy, highly detailed recaps as we've done in the past. They're a little trimmed down, slimmed down, so we can make a little leaner kind of show for you that doesn't get all bogged up in dialogue exchanges about every single thing. We're having a better run with it, I think.
Indeed.
So what that means is always that since we're comparing it to the books, we hope that you've read the books. Yes. By now, you should have read the books. Consider this a book club if you want to. But basically, you know, what we do is we recap it and we theorize about the changes, what we think of those changes, love them or hate them, where the show might be going in the future based on the other books in the series. So we kind of do hope, because this series, the TV show jumps around in the comics, that you've probably read all of it.
Yes.
You know, most of it. So if you hear this sound, that usually means...
Easter egg from the comic, baby.
Something pretty faithful that we feel compelled to really point out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was a funnier bit when it didn't match up as often.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, now like we have to be doing it a lot.
Now we're ringing the bell at least once a week.
So we should phase it out a little bit.
Okay, we could do that. We should get different bells for different kinds of things.
Right,
now.
okay, there you go.
You know? Jesse's got his own bell.
Right,
Tulip's got her own bell. I've got one. You've got one, you know? Something like that.
Yeah.
If you like that idea, send us an email.
There you go. Or just send us bells.
All right, this one's The Tombs. The Tombs, it's called.
Indeed.
It says here, The Tombs.
Yes. That's what it's called.
With a silent B, a silent-ish B.
Well, technically you pronounce it, but you just don't think you pronounce it.
It's one of those, right?
Yep.
Because it changes the M, I guess.
Right.
Tombs.
Exactly.
You don't do that.
Like lamb.
Oh, right. You don't do lamb.
Right.
I got you. We're learning stuff. We're teaching people things.
English, baby.
I don't think
it's a great language.
I don't think anybody wants to hear us teach anything.
No.
We're only teaching from one book, the original.
Yeah, we're not doing a great job with that. Huh?
No, the original holy book.
Oh, well, let's get to it then.
All right, let's jump right into it. All right, so this week we got some good stuff. We got some bells we're gonna ring, I think. We start out in hell. and it's Santa Killers gets let out. He goes to have that meeting finally with Satan. We saw previously that he was like, tell Satan that I want to talk to him or whatever. So we're ringing the bell for...
Just purely the fact that Satan's involved.
And he looks like he does from the book.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And exactly spot on for the, like, when he leaves. Because that was the thing last season. We only saw hell as, like, this prison complex kind of thing. And it was like, oh, man, we're not going to see it.
Yes.
And one of my theories was like, no, we'll see it. They do the slow play on everything here on the show. It's a remix, and they do a slow play on the stuff from the books. So it's like they want to build everybody up. I remember Catelyn saying that about in season 1. It's like, we just don't want to start throwing angels and demons at people. We feel like we got to build up to things.
Right.
So I was like, all right, and also maybe they jacked up the budget. Maybe because it's 10 episodes, they had a couple of extra shekels.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give it up to the visual effects crew over there, Kevin Linksfelser.
Yes.
I'm gonna butcher your name because it's not right in front of me, Kev. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But,
hell looked just like it did in the comic. I loved every second
spot
of it.
on. Really good effects on that.
Yeah, and I actually enjoyed this version of Satan a little bit more than I did with the comic book version. Because I feel like we actually didn't get too much from him.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a
comic
personality, not as much as this guy.
Yeah, this guy's got a personality on him.
Yeah, so if you picture this guy like dialed back by half as far as like, being cute and witty.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Then you've got like the comic version. So I was okay with it. They pulled it off,
Right.
And he's got more abs.
Oh, he's got the most abs I've ever seen.
I think he's got enough he could donate extras out to people.
Send them.
I could use a couple.
Send them to us.
I could use a couple. My tweet was that he must be using the salmon ladder from Arrow.
Right.
The one that Arrow uses.
Right.
But yeah, so basically, it's Satan kind of reaffirming who's boss, literally, and it starts this thing that we come back to later, but it's a setup kind of a thing where he's like, well, you're gonna have to pay for some of your transgressions, basically, and he starts hangs him up, and I forget what her name was, but there was a woman in the room.
She was the angel of death.
She was the angel of death,
which we do get in the comics. So I'll ring a bell on that. The only difference is that it's a female in the show as opposed to the male.
As opposed to the male, but right. They I think actually when we first see this version of Satan, in the Santa Killers flashbacky origin stuff in the comics, they're like playing a game, I think.
Yeah, they're playing poker.
They're playing poker.
Yeah.
So that whole tongue-in-cheeky thing is in there.
Yes,
like, you know
absolutely.
What I mean? So that we leave that scene pretty much. It's basically just set up so that we can come back to it later and cap. It's like bookending the show. But what's interesting about that scene, though, is that when that scene starts, when Santa Killers walks into the room, Satan's on the phone. And I don't know what the full gist of it was, but it was a lot of like, oh, okay, you guys worked that out. That's great. Okay, cool. Okay, tell the All-Father I said what's up. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yep.
And so that's a name drop. We can name drop. We give a bell for that, man. I'll give a bell for that. Ooh, we're just racking up bells. So many bells.
Yeah, three already. But yeah, I don't recall from the comic Satan and the All-Father ever really
having a deal,
in relation with each other. But I'll jump ahead a little bit. When we do come back to it, Satan does say that he has a plan of his own.
Right.
So possibly that could be a part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's totally something original to the show. I'm down for it. I think it's cool. I'd love to see more of them.
Let's stay on the Santa Killer stuff because there's not a lot more to it. And this way we'll just kind of wrap it up here.
Most definitely.
So here's some theorizing for you. That, one of the things in the books is that, like, they don't stick to it too hard in the show. But the guns, Santa Killer's guns, like, they're not supposed to miss.
Right.
They're like magic guns. So the deal he makes with Satan here, Santa Killers wants the preacher. He wants to take out Jessie. He wants revenge on him. Santa Killers like, well, look, you gotta have to do work for me before I'll let you go do that. You go catch these two guys who escaped, but you can't take your guns. When you finish the assignment, I'll give you your guns back. So basically, I guess that means he's going to go topside and search for Hitler in Arseface.
I think so.
I mean, they don't say it, but I mean, that's got to be what it is.
Yeah, he hands them, Satan hands the Saint like a folder or a couple pictures of the the people that he has to
yeah.
go and get, and they're not shown on the camera. But
Right.
actually, if you watched the extra on AMC.com with Sam Catlin following the episode, he did mention that it was confirmed to be Hitler in Nosface.
Hitler in Nosface. So go ahead.
To me, like I was thinking maybe he was looking to get Star and Jessie.
Right.
Because
okay.
to me, Jessie could end up helping him out in the long run, I think, with his plan, if he knew, but I don't think he's aware of Jessie's abilities just yet.
Yeah, I guess, it really depends on us knowing exactly what Satan's plan is, because why would those two knuckleheads...
Well, he does make it clear that he just wants them back in hell because they escaped, and escaping is not good for business.
That's fair.
So,
it's a bad rep.
Right.
Sets up a bad rep.
So he does make that very clear, but I was just saying that it would have been cool if Jessie somehow worked into it, because we didn't really get anything with Satan and Jessie in the comic at all, and it would be cool to see them interact.
See if somehow they cross paths in some way or another. Right. So my theorizing for where they're going to go with this, though, I'm thinking, the one thing we didn't get in the comics in Santa Killer's origin is when he kills Satan.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's definitely coming.
So that's what I'm thinking. As soon as he gets the guns back. Like that'll be like at the end of this season, because that would tee up season 4.
Definitely.
Like, you know what I mean? Brings them back, or only brings Hitler back, something like that. And it's this whole, well, you didn't live up to your end of the bargain. Somehow he gets his gun and shoots Satan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they got to get rid of Hitler, and I figure, you're gonna keep Arseface around because he's around, but eventually you kind of have to write out Hitler, not because he's Hitler.
He's dead to me, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, thank God. So, I don't know. Unless you had more on Santa Killer, I think for now that kind of puts that off to the side.
Yes, sir.
So with our main cast, we pick up right away where Tulip was with, I forget her name.
Madam Boyd?
Yeah, the Madam Boyd. I wrote down her first name because it was like Sabina.
Oh, okay.
So I caught that from Jessie. He was like, "You talked to Sabina?" But she does this comic book cartoon thing where she just kind of shoots in the ground in a circle and then jumps and they break through the floor, which was okay. But they get away basically, and that sets up them for the episode where they're going to be in the car most of it. We cut to basically next important thing is Sabina's telling her about Jessie back in the days.
Yes,
and we cut to this flashback of Jessie way back in the day is the big text on the screen.
I'll just stop right there. I like what they're doing this season with the, I don't know exactly what those are called, but just those
title cards.
Title cards, exactly.
Title cards.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They're playing around with them this season a little bit more than they have in the past.
Yeah.
I think there was something else in this episode too that popped up that was a little bit of a joke of the title cards.
Of the title cards, of the timing of it. Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that one specifically way back in the day, and then the second one later on in the episode. That I somehow can't remember.
It's okay. You're fired.
I guess Angel Palmer is going to have my spot now.
Fuck. All right, you're staying.
All right.
Okay. So basically, we get to see Jody kind of fight a little bit, I think, or we didn't really see him fight, but he comes back from a fight. But it got me thinking that the whole thing here with the tombs, real quick, is that like, does it really show how tough anybody is if, like, you're a fully able-bodied man and you're beating up these people who have been chained and, like, hardly fed and hardly given any water and obviously just beat to shit from 2 weeks ago?
Have literally lost part of their soul.
Right. I think they're a little under the weather. It might not. It might be easy pickings.
Yeah.
But so there was that crossed my mind. I was like, this doesn't really show us anything about anybody being fucking tough down there. Like, it's crazy shit. But
yeah,
so you're nutty, but I don't know how tough you might be.
I mentioned this to Bill earlier off mic. Like, they really, the showrunners really created an interesting show here that really isn't Preacher, but it's an interesting story. It's a cool story about these weirdos down south.
Yeah.
That have these tombs, like a fighting ring and everything. They make money off of it. I'd watch that show.
Yeah. And I like how Sam Catlin in that video breaks down like how there's this vicious cycle of like these people they only got so much money because they already owe the family money, but they come down here.
It's like a casino type thing.
Yeah, hoping to win more money,
right.
But they lose. So it keeps them in this perpetual loop,
right.
And then they lose so much money that they can't pay it back, and they end up as people in the pit.
Yes. And
it just keeps going and going and going. It's it's like a cycle. It's this wheel. You know what I mean? So I can understand why they might be upset eventually if young Jessie upset the apple cart at some point. Because that's what they seem to
messing around with the competition.
Yeah, that and other things. It seems like they're building up to some flashback where young Jessie really fucks up fucks over the family.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Because it kind of hinted at it, but like that's the thing. Like everybody's supposed to be kind of like a little really like carrying a lot of baggage and hate towards each other, but
Right,
they're
but-
not really showing it as much as they should.
You're right about that.
You
But
know,
what
like-
I was gonna say was I feel like the disdain from the family that you are kind of theorizing about
Sure.
really just stems from them just hating Christina and hating
Yeah.
just that line of the family. They in the comic they
Yeah.
just had a disdain for them that really wasn't justified or really never got an explanation for why
Well, here's the
grandma felt that way.
And here's the thing, it's all in grandma too, because the
Right.
other two are just hired hands, really.
Right.
TC, that just they've been hired for so long, they might as well be family.
Yeah.
But like, the bloodline shit doesn't really affect them much. I think that was part of it for grandma in the book, was that like, it was about in the end it was going to perpetuate the bloodline, which it didn't seem like it was gonna. Her daughter finally had a kid, and it's like, oh, it's a boy too, like it's a male, like oh, that's
Yeah.
great, like you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And Jessie just kind of fucking, puts the kibosh again and again on that. So we get to see, we learn there that Jessie dated Sabina as a teen for a little bit, and then much like kind of telegraphing him later on in present day, he does this thing where it's like, I'm gonna be really fucking bad to you right now to force this breakup, because that's an easier way and a quicker way to do it, or make you hate me so you'll move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So because it's like that's what I feel like I gotta do. We can't do this anymore.
Right.
So it shadows later on with Tulip and Cassidy at the house where he's like, look at what I did.
Exactly.
You gotta go.
Which is basically, the turning point of the episode towards the end.
Right.
So
This the next big thing is that to kind of hit here in the notes anyway, is that we get the lighter.
we do.
We saw the fuck communism lighter.
We did. And
The U was like hardly even scratched
it
out.
was scratched. I was gonna say
A
it
little
was
bit,
scratched
but-
out, like you said, but
Not much.
not much.
Not much. Like,
And I loved it.
It's like an effort was made.
Yeah.
Like and that's it. That's like all it shows is like but
I mean, hey, if you have a TV show where you're portraying God in a fucking dog suit and the devil being like this cool kind of like mob boss kind of character that's plays poker and he fucks around, why not?
I mean, why not?
At that point,
Yeah, and I was hoping for a little bit more like impact on the reveal of it, on seeing it, at least like maybe even like music cue wise, or some kind of like pull-in shot on Jessie that's like just landed a little bit more for the viewers who don't know that that's like an important thing.
I feel like we did get that from Jesse though a little bit,
I mean,
like
you
where the
get
camera
it.
pans onto him and you kind of see the expression on his face where he's like, "Oh fuck!"
Like, yeah.
and like I feel like the viewers did get that where it
Yeah.
was like, okay, he's gonna at some point try and get that back. Like that is some
that's
kind
a
of
thing.
significance.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Right.
You know.
Otherwise they wouldn't show it so closely. Like they literally did a straight,
Yeah.
one shot of the fucking.
And Jody's
lighter.
showing him too. Jody's like, kind of like rubbing it.
Oh, of course.
Quietly, passive aggressively rubbing it in his face.
Absolutely.
Which is basically from the comic too, because he does that in the comic, and it's like, oh shit, that's my daddy's lighter. John Wayne gave my daddy that lighter. So this raises a question a little bit. It's like, what are they going to do with the history of all that? Because they've updated it for the timeline. Will they still do the whole John Wayne gave that to my daddy thing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because some time has passed, it doesn't quite sync up,
Yeah, it's odd because.
or something akin.
We did get the confirmation this week, really for the first time, that Jesse is much younger. Not that he's necessarily much younger than he is in the comic, but they
Right.
just shifted the time for the current time period where
Right.
it's Gladiator in his past, it's Nirvana, it's
Yeah, they're all
the 90s.
yeah.
It's the early
Yeah.
2000s. It's not
Yeah, he grew up as a kid, teen in the
70s,
90s,
80s,
right.
Vietnam War. It's not like that.
This is a 20-year plus
Right.
kind of shift up.
Right. So it's interesting. I actually
Yeah.
wouldn't have been, just like a weird aside here, I wouldn't have been annoyed if they changed the lighter to say like "fuck terrorism" or something like that on it, where it was like more relative to the time, where like
Yeah.
his father, fought in the war on terror or something,
Yeah.
more closely to now.
Right,
Where
right,
it would be
right.
kind of weird if they come out and said, "Oh, my dad fought in."
Well, that's why I'm
Vietnam.
wondering. I mean, I know we theorized on it in earlier seasons, but like how the father being a priest and where that falls into the father. Like my thinking is, I'm guessing the father must have served if he's gonna have ever served
Right.
before he became a priest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that because he fell in love with Jesse's mother, that he tried to become a priest to keep grandma happy, to try and fall in line with all that. And then after I guess dad must come snatch him up as a little boy. They come get him, kill dad, bring little Jessie back, and then little Jessie grows up there.
Right.
You know, on that property all alone. Because even in the flashback with Sabina, she even mentions Tulip, like, because she's like,
Yes.
"Oh, that girl you
That girl
left in
from
Texas."
Texas,
You know
right.
what I mean? And all my exes live in Texas.
Yep.
Let's move it along, because we'll come back to that shit sooner or later.
Absolutely.
So then we get some stuff with Jody and Jessie going to get a keg, which allows Jessie, because Jesse's up to some hoodwinks, where he's at this point chopped up Cassidy and basically tries to ship him off in a box.
Right.
Meanwhile, my only issue with this whole thing, as goofy as it is only that it doesn't take too long to go inside a place and get a keg of beer. Like, maybe if they have to wheel it out from the back. But I feel like it takes a lot longer to stuff Cassidy in that box with the foam peanuts and all that.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, how did he get Cassidy's chopped up body past Jody in the truck?
Yeah, like,
You know?
how did he manage to put that into the bed of the pickup? You know what I mean? Like, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of convenient
Yeah.
dodging of
He
some
put him
stuff.
in his fucking North Face backpack or something like that.
There's even a bit later on where, like, you know, after Cassidy's kind of like, you think he's done, like, Tulip's out in her car and he
Right.
just pops up, and it's like, well, but how did that?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it that we just have to take it as he's fine. You know what I mean? But, like, I don't know. A little time condensing going on there.
It's TV.
So yeah, so Jody packs him up. We go back to young Jessie running the tombs, and this is the flashback from Sabina's point of view,
Right.
Madame Boyd's point of view, story as she tells it, of Jessie finding down there, and actually her brother pops up
Yep.
at the pits to the tombs. And they get into it, and then Josie, wow. When you combine Jody and Jessie,
There you
that's
go.
what you get. But he chokes him out.
Right. Kills him.
Yeah, kills him, seemingly so. You know what I mean? Now, for you, at that point, you were like, yo, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
right?
I was ready to just shut the show off at that point. I paused it. I'm dead serious. I paused it. I stopped for a second, and I said to myself, am I going to continue watching this episode? And I, like, went and did something else. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Kind of reset yourself a little
And
bit?
then I came back like 5 or 10 minutes later, and I put it back on.
Right.
And obviously we all know at this point that they kind of made that right. They didn't,
Yeah.
they were just showing that story from Madame Boyd's point of view.
Yeah, but
Not
in the
how it
end,
actually went down.
Yeah, but in the end, I mean, the brother still died.
Right.
And so it's like, you think you're going to get this whole different kind of angle on it.
Right. But there's just this really just, my feeling on that really just stems from the comic, where Jessie is really just this conflicted character.
Yeah.
And them doing that doesn't really make him a conflicted character, to me at least. I don't really think that's redeemable if
Yeah.
it actually went down the way that Madame Boyd
Yeah.
portrayed it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I
I'm trying to
I
remember
do
right
think
now.
that it's a little out of character for him to even have killed the kid, but the fact that it wasn't really intentional on Jessie's part.
Well, here's my
he
problem.
feels bad about it after the fact.
Here's my problem right now, though. As I'm remembering it, you correct me, because you watched it earlier today. When Tulip comes back to Jessie later on and wants his version of that story, like, the kid dies anyway.
Yep.
The kid, he still does that.
Yep.
And I think the thing we're supposed to take away from that is like, okay, here's this thing that you think we're going to show some different ending on it, but that's how it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? And so Tulip has to kind of like just be like, oh, so she was right. You know what I mean? But I don't know how that made him good. Like, how that made
Well,
them-
it's really just the fact that he was kind of like, in the original flashback, happy about it and was like trying to kill the kid.
I
And
gotcha.
gets right up and gets right back into his showman tomb spirit.
right.
you know?
Whereas with this, it's like I kind of had to do it.
He attacked me. I was choking him out, and I really didn't
Things got out of
I
hand.
got lost in the fight, or
Yeah.
whatever, and he ended up dying.
I'd have to go back and watch it, I think, to figure out what the nuance
Don't
is.
get me wrong.
Right.
Still kind of out of character for Jesse Custer. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's a little bit more redeemable
Yeah.
than had it been.
Well, that's the whole thing in movies and TV. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, if the character is not at least somehow put upon with that kind of shit, like, there has to be an out kind of a thing. Like, you know what I mean? It has to be some kind of angle where it was like, he had to do
Right.
it. Like, I had to kill the bad guy. I
Right.
couldn't just go cold kill him. He has to do, like, something really bad.
Yeah.
But, all right. Fair enough. So, what's interesting, though, too, is that was that big speech, though, that Jessie makes
Yeah.
when they come back. Cassidy now has over at the place with the shipping place.
Yes.
They cut back and the box is all fucking leaking blood and there's a big trail and he's gone.
Yep.
You know, so
I
I didn't.
no liquids.
Yeah, I said no liquids. So I didn't think he was coming back. I thought he was just going to kind of go off on his own somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I kind of initially knew that he was going to go back because his motivation the whole season so far has been Tulip.
Yeah.
And even him leaving, I'll jump ahead a little bit. Even him, I won't get too much into it, but even him leaving kind of threw me off a little bit because he's really hard-headed about the fact that he wants to get Tulip back, you know?
Right.
So I thought it was interesting that they ended up making him leave at the end, but
Yeah.
I guess that's what has to happen to move the story along.
Well, here's the thing I was talking about last week is that, like, you know, they do a thing where it's like, you know.
They have to separate them.
Yeah.
So they have to do that to move the show along, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
it's not really too consistent.
So Cassidy comes back. He's like, okay. And they fight pretty nasty, gets real bad, and Jesse even puts a piece of the baseball bat, like as a wooden stake, into Cassidy's back.
Yep.
And he does this big barky, screamy thing in Tulip's face, which is basically the thing we talked about before, which is like, you guys gotta get out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just go. And it's this whole thing,
Which
subtextually for him to push them away.
Which now, that's cool and understandable, but at this point, why is he doing this in front of Jody? Like, you know, like for Jody and TC, like he's supposed to be putting up this facade where, you know, Cassidy is the key to the next level for Angelville coming back, the tombs coming back to what it is, because we have this new element of the tombs now that can just play on repeat because he's a fucking vampire.
Right.
And we could just kill him every night.
Yeah.
And
This
now at the end of the
throws
episode,
off that whole plan, kind of a thing.
And
Oh, I just killed our
Jody
guy.
didn't say nothing about it.
Yeah. It's this thing where I think they might have kind of like, you know, realized that and been like, oh yeah, I guess, you know, it's probably one of those after the fact
Hey,
things from the writers' room where it's like
I'm not saying
a
that
little bit of a miss. But you're right though. Jody should have been a little bit like, hey, that was our cash cow right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just had Jesse say something,
Yeah.
and then been fine with it. But it did feel like a little thing where it's like, I noticed that too. It's like, well, what did you just get finished saying? How like this guy was gonna, you know, save the whole family fortune or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they could come back next week and have a quick scene where Jody confronts Jesse about it, and that's fine. But like I said, I don't have a problem with it. It was just something that I noticed. That
it was just this little discrepancy kind of a thing, you know. And besides, either way, I think you know, Jesse's bringing by reopening the tombs. It seems to have all kind of like come back on its own anyway.
Yeah,
they don't really need the vampire. So I thought with the wooden stake that was supposed to be like, oh, he's definitely done now, but and this is all to push them away. So we cut to Tulip now. When we come back from break, we cut to Tulip. She's outside in a car, and out of nowhere, there's Cassidy. Hey, I'm fine, but he was wearing the skin mask.
Yeah.
This time with the skin suit.
Yeah.
Which is a reference to earlier on.
Yep.
So he gets in the car and they start driving, and it's this whole thing where like, hey, you know, we can go anywhere, blah, 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 blah. He says, but I love you. And she's like, but I don't love you. Which I feel like was good, which was great, which was nice to have him just kind of be like, fuck, like that, like that's the truth. Like ultimately, it doesn't really matter what I ever do.
Yeah.
She's not into me.
Well, I guess it was kind of an interesting scene to me because he could have given her
The spritz?
the serum, right?
Yeah, the spray.
or whatever it was exactly. But he chose not to. So is that the thing that the showrunners are giving the viewer to say, okay, like, take him back a little bit for the future, like he's now he can get redeemed a little bit because he chose to take the high road and not completely be a scumbag. I don't know if that's the case.
And I wonder if this is about maybe kind of being able to dial back his obsession with her too. Eventually, this starts him on the road of kind of being able to start to pack that away, compartmentalize that.
But here's the thing: I mean, they went so hard with it already that it's like, you really got to reel it back now. Yeah, and it's almost too far. Far gone.
Or it's got to be a thing where he's got to work on it for a while or something. Yeah. We see shades of it for a while, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing that they just wanted to kind of put this in there so that later on, when he does do a scumbag move, that's a little bit more of a hardcore scumbag move. It does have some anchoring that we kind of saw, and all right, fine.
Although, don't put it past the show to in like a season or two if they do get to the story arc where Jessie kind of falls off the map and Cassidy fucks with Tulip. He didn't like just throw that fucking spray into like the woods. He still got that baby on him.
Yeah, I feel like that's still in play.
Right.
And now that also too, when he gets on this bus,
go ahead.
Featherstone is on the bus with him.
Yes, but I'll go back a second. It's also easier for the show to have him use like a love serum on her rather than it be like, oh, I got her like addicted to fucking opioids.
It's an easy
fucking
out.
Heroin.
Right.
And now we're in love.
Yeah. And I wonder and I think if anything, it might be this thing where it's like, hey, we can do this kind of storyline, not really commit to it yet. Kind of fuck with the readers' heads, and then when we pull back, it's just really we've done it to establish some things, and in the end, down the line, when we get there, they'll feel like they're fucking doing it, and they'll feel like this extra elation of not just seeing a thing, but like, I didn't think they were actually going to do it, and they did it, and so that's how like you get your surprise as a reader. Is because you already kind of thought this was a foregone conclusion.
That's right.
Like you're never going to see the red eyes. I still swear, like maybe after the LSD trip, I feel like if they're thinking like, what if at some point like he reconnects with Genesis, or they have a tighter bond, and he's like stage 2 kind of, and like that's when the red eyes start to come in, like when we have more money for that shit or something.
Right.
Like it's like let's save that until we have more budget.
Yeah.
But all right, so Tulip drives him to the bus. There's a love, no love situation. He's like, we should have gone to Bimini.
Cute little mention there.
Cute little callback. He gets on the bus, and so does Featherstone. Tulip and Jessie make up, as we mentioned before. But Tulip, has found out that from the Boyd chick that basically, if she wants to break the spell, she's got to kill Grandma. Yes. Grandma's got to die. Nobody else. That's it. It's basic magic. It's 101. And Tulip's like, that's too easy. She's like, no, it's just basic. Which I agree with Tulip, though. It is too easy for a show like this, but maybe that's why they have her say that, just so that's like a little reminder of us that just because Boyd thinks that she knows everything about Grandma's situation doesn't mean that she does.
So, just to not get too negative on that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like, if you're going to have that scene with Madame Boyd and Tulip where she tells her, like, yo, I'm here only because you got to kill Grandma. You got to kill Miss Langell. Why doesn't Tulip, like, immediately in that episode or, like, next episode
just run downstairs and shoot her in the head?
Because she's, like, a frail old lady. And it's not like, granted, I understand she has all this magic and shit that she knows, but short of TC and Jody, like they haven't really showed us that she has like any like defense mechanism that she can fucking defend herself with. So let's hope, that's hopeful, obviously, that it happens within the next 2 or 3 episodes. But I'll talk about that later on once we wrap up, the full review of the episode.
Well, we're almost there anyway. Because at that point, that's kind of like the wrap, really. I mean, as far as just hitting the broad strokes, the killer makes a deal with the devil. And that's it. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, that's really minimizing the episode. My notes were a little thinner this week. Yeah. But
yeah, no, about that scene with the Saint, you see that he basically got his whole fucking back
all torn open. Nasty.
So
yeah, it's good.
I don't know if he's gonna end up like growing that back, but that'll be cool to see him like walking around with like an open body for the whole rest of the series.
Yeah, like if we ever see him without his jacket on, basically, like he looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you get like a little bit of a like sexual thing from Satan at all? Like while I don't know if this is just me just having a fucked up head. But
I mean,
like,
he is hot.
I was imagining that like while like the camera wasn't on them and like the whole time he was getting whipped, like the devil was just fucking jerking it to like him getting whipped the whole time. You know what I mean? Like
that's a good point.
Like that would have been something like in the book, you know? Like,
yeah.
We would have came back to that scene and
Right.
like you know Satan would have been
finishing,
buckling up his pants. Or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that
he would have been like cleaning himself off or something.
Right. We
like,
didn't,
yeah.
you know, we don't have to see him actually whacking it.
No, but like just his hand under the desk would have been
something
enough.
funny like that.
You know,
would've been
just as
cool.
we're cutting away. I
Right.
mean, they kind of, it's the same dance they do with TC so far.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He just knows way too much about animals.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I keep wondering, like, you know, like, are we going to see him do that kind of shit? Or, like, I mean, not that we have to see it, but,
Right.
like, just, you know, I'm taking a walk with this one. I'll be back in a little while. Where you going with the chicken? It's my girl. Like, you know, just something. This is Petunia. This is my favorite. Like, you know what I mean? Then you just hear,
Yeah.
you know, from the...
Right. Exactly. But
It's that kind of thing. Like, I wonder if, like, you know, if we'll see that. But Satan's pretty cool.
Satan, they nailed Satan for me, man. To be quite honest with you,
They nailed it, yeah.
Yeah. So just to get back into what I was talking about earlier, just a little theory that I have going forward.
We do those.
I hope it's really not so much of a theory as it is a hope that they kill Grandma within the next 2 to 3 episodes, rather than it being like an episode 9 or 10 thing, so that we could maybe towards the end of the season put Angelville behind us and then get more into Jessie having the word and like the actual mission.
Getting into the next leg of the whole thing.
Yeah, and that, you know, like really end the season with like 2 or 3 episodes of the main mission, and then have next season be some other weird storyline.
Yeah,
for the majority of it, and then, you know, touch on elements of the main storyline throughout, like they have so far this season.
like if I was gonna telegraph where they're going based on like what they're doing, like my thinking is that like.
Oh, I'm not saying they're gonna do that. It's
No,
just a hope.
no,
You know, it's just a
I hear
hope.
you.
Yeah.
I feel like here's like they'll tee up maybe the storylines like this. I'm still thinking Grandma in the end, the house, Jody and all them dead. Saint the Killers returns Hitler to hell, gets his guns back, or just one because you only brought me one guy, something stupid like that. But kills Satan, gets his other gun. And Cassidy, you know, depending on what they do with this other vampire stuff, because, you know, they're going to do some of that this season. I mean, it's in the teaser stuff. The original teaser for the season just showed you all the new weird characters that were going to be on the show, just a visual real quick. And I think it's either Jesus Assad or somebody from the vampire cult.
I can't think of what they were called. Les Infanti.
Infants or something.
Yeah.
The infants of the night or something like that. Night babies. So that
Infants du sang. I don't know what that means.
Right. Put it into the translator. What I'm thinking is that, you know, according to the preview for next week, spoilers, you're going to see All Father.
Yep.
And they're mentioning Mossad, when at the end of the season we might have a thing where like Cassidy's being brought over there, because in the comics it's just that nobody, like, people didn't know exactly what he looked like, Jesse. So Cassidy pulled this whole hoodwink where like, oh no, I'm
Jesse Custer.
I'm
right.
Jesse Custer. So it'll have to be under different circumstances because it's 2018, and it's a little ridiculous to think that they won't know the look of the guy they're after. But if maybe we'll tee that up where like at least he's being taken to Mossad, and like that's like the season end cliffhanger maybe for him, like he's on a plane heading out there or something like that.
Now that you brought that up, I don't think actually at that point in the comic Star had met Jesse, so that's why he didn't really know what the deal was. Right. But so hey, I mean, I do agree with you. It would be stupid at this point, but
if it would feel a little bit early to set that up.
Yeah.
But at the rate that they're kind of going and bringing stuff in and kind of shifting around the points of time, like I could see them kind of trying to squeeze it in. It would be like a thing too. It would just be like a bum rush thing. Because here's the thing: like I don't think Star on the show knows that that's a vampire.
No, he doesn't.
You know what I mean? I'm not sure if that's like if Featherstone and Hoover established that or figured that out yet.
No.
And maybe there's going to. right? Let's say like Featherstone follows him from behind, finds out he's a vampire, and that becomes a new obsession for Star, right? Because if we get that power, if we get that ability underneath, like to control, or the All Father gets word, he's like, "We'll bring him here," like you know what I mean, or we can use that somehow. Who's to say?
It would be interesting to see Masada in its entirety this season, like actually go there.
Yeah.
Rather than just over, FaceTime or whatever that was.
Yeah. In
with
the preview.
the All Father.
Yeah. Which you guys will see next week if you didn't see the preview. That's
but
that's
if you
available.
haven't, go to AMC.com and check that shit out.
Yeah, go check that shit out.
It's a quick 3 or 4 minute scene. It's pretty funny.
So we got a couple of emails.
We do.
We do. Let me jump on over. So, we're asking for your grandma stories, folks. And, if you got crazy grandmas, you got evil grandmas, you got a grandma who just kind of one day did something really screwed up, we'd love to hear about it. We have a story. We have something from our friend over at DC TV Report, Dr. Sarah Nexley herself.
Sarah.
And
Great
admittedly, she admits that it's not the most evil of stories. So
we're not really looking for evil stories. We're just looking for quirky, funny grandma stories that not necessarily evil, but
I'm looking for evil, and I'll settle for other.
All right, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Look, I'll
play good cop, you play bad cop. Then
I'm gonna reach for the sun, and if I land on the moon, I'm cool with that.
All right,
that's why I'm going with it.
It's cooler on the moon, so
too hot. This is not really a very tough story here, but she's got one of her grandmothers is a stern Iowa farm wife who survived the Great Depression. She used to feed tramps and hobos who came by the farmhouse looking for a meal while Grandpa was overseas during World War I. When she did, she made her 2 kids, which were Sarah's aunt and uncle, hide under the bed, in case the hobos decided to murder everybody. So as far as I know, she never locked any of the homeless guys she fed into the tombs or a fight club or anything like that. But I don't not know that either.
Right.
You know what I mean? She can't really rule it out.
There's room. There's room there.
Yeah, I think there's some wiggle room. I mean, this is just what you're being told.
Yeah.
And think about the versions of stories like you hear adults tell kids. It's like, that's not how that went down. But anyway. When we packed up our house to move into the care facility after my grandpa died, we found that she'd squirreled away half-empty bottles of Jack Daniels all over the house, which was insanely badass in my eyes. So that's a couple of badass things. That was kind of a badass, like she would fucking actually help somebody's fucking
I was
scabs.
gonna say that just on its face is pretty awesome.
That's ballsy.
Yeah.
To like just help like these gonna snipe type dudes, like
Right.
you know what I mean, and just a one woman with some kids in the house. That's recipe for disaster. That's a Lifetime movie of the month.
Yeah.
Not even the week.
Sarah, you can write.
So Sarah, yeah.
Write it.
So
write that story.
So if you got something that's like, well, my grandma. If you're thinking already about something that tops Sarah's grandma story, we want to hear it. It doesn't have to be by a lot.
No.
It could be like, my grandmother poisoned somebody. But, I mean, we think she did. We don't really know for sure. So, and then Agent Palmer's got an email. So, Sarah, thank you for the email. Guys, check out DC TV Report. They do Preacher breakdowns over there, too. And right now, they don't have a lot of shows, so they're only really doing a Preacher breakdown. And they're rewatching Batman, the animated series. But if you want something that's a little bit of a different flavor of how we do it, this show that gets a little bit deeper into the moments by moments, that's what they're doing over there.
Right.
So Agent Palmer's got one here, and he's like looking ahead to his book storyline, looking further ahead, extrapolating outward.
Okay.
Can you guys see? This is about Arseface. Can you guys see maybe putting him in like an American Idol type show to become the rock star that he ends up in the books?
Oh, well, hey, it is an element of the book, so I wouldn't be against it. But I'm, as we all know, if you listen to the show, I'm not too fond of the way Arseface has been portrayed so far throughout the series.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I'd really be down for it, but it is an element of the comic, so I really can't say that I don't want it included if I'm going to rail against the showrunners not doing comic book things throughout the entire...
Yeah, right.
So, It would be cool to see that.
I think it's a fair spin,
Yeah.
like on the modernization of it. Like it's a thing where it's like, he gets discovered, he gets like really fucking popular really quick. And what's like a really easy way to do that these days?
Right.
Is to have him kind of get discovered on some kind of show, something similar to that, and then like takes the world by storm,
Yeah.
like he does in the comics. You know what I mean?
Hey, even if it's like something like a YouTube thing, or if like someone posts up a video of him somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's what I kind of figured it would end
and
up
like
being.
he gets like some internet buzz,
Right.
and becomes like an internet sensation.
Because it's kind of
that
what
would
happens.
be funny as
Because
fuck.
it's kind of basically what happens. I think like video footage gets out and just like via, there was
Right.
no, YouTube back then,
Right.
and being viral is basically what happens to him now.
Right.
Because everybody starts talking about it, and it's just groundswell, and it's like, oh, this guy that we can't understand, we love him. He's drooling everywhere. It's great. So question will be is, will we ever get to see him sing Nirvana songs, karaoke style at least? Because I'll take that for now. If the three of them somehow end up at a bar at some point, and
Hey, if
he's doing "Come as You Are,"
if the show can afford the song, then I'm game.
fuck it, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The karaoke version, it's great. It's great. I love this song. All right, so that's all we got for emails, man.
Yes.
Normally I would jump over to the old Twitterverse, as the kids call it. Do the kids call it that, Dom?
I'm not sure they do.
No, I don't think they do. You're younger than me, so I just thought maybe you might be more than
It was
me.
a fair question, but
What's like the cool thing that they call the Twitter now? Well,
Twitter.
just Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay. Just hoping for something cool. Like, you remember when everybody called the web the internets because of Bush?
Yes.
It's good times. So, yeah, speaking of Twitter, I guess I can mention this real quick. I put up on a Preacher vs. Preacher account a picture of myself
Yes,
from
you
the
did.
90s.
I did see that.
When I looked exactly, or like pretty close, to the kid playing young Jessie. And he liked it. That kid
Did he?
liked it. Yeah. He's like, oh, we're twins.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he's like, I love
Nice.
the show. And I'm like, I think you mean the show you're on.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you heard this.
Right.
But either way, hey, cool. Even if you did, awesome. But as far as other things, let's see here real quick. I'll just try and see if we got anybody's. I didn't really put the call out for feedback and such. I should have done that. That worked out well last week. Have to remember to do that next time. So Chris Dragon, he's always got something, but his thing, we just kind of answered it, really. He's like, if the Grail gets Cassidy, will that set up Masada and they all farther? Yeah, but I mean, like, that's, because they're following him. So I guess that's what's going to happen. All Featherstone's just going to follow him from a distance a little bit, and then we'll get there. That's it, really. We're just going to, let's not get crazy.
All right.
Let's not get overindulgent. Does that sound right?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
But I would like to speak a little bit more about what we thought about the episode and what we want to see going forward.
Let's do it.
It's really just the dynamic between the three
Yeah.
main amigos,
Yeah.
And I'll harp on what I said earlier again. If we can get Grandma dead within the next 3 episodes, by episode like 7, that would really be
That would leave this room to kind
phenomenal.
of like let them all kind of reset as a group, maybe a little bit,
right.
or maybe the storyline where they're trying to find him. Wow, what the hell was that accent? Well, they're trying to find him, or these other things that we've mentioned. That would give a little bit of room at the back end for that to kind of go down
Yep.
smoothly and set up season 4.
Yeah, so because I'm just thinking now, like if they realistically hold out on the grandma story until
Right.
episode 10,
Right.
it's going to be hard to, unless they do like a full episode of Masada or the Saint and the Word storyline. It's going to be hard to fucking balance both storylines throughout the whole rest of the season, I feel like.
Yeah.
To make that clean transition into season 4.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that kind of being a thing. Also, too, you raised a good point before the show about, like, we haven't seen our face in Hitler yet. And when we do,
Oh, yeah.
your theory is that, we're probably going to get an episode where it's, like, mostly them, if not all of them.
Yeah, so, like, I actually did say that before, you're right. if I'm sticking with the theory that we get Grandma dead by episode 6 or 7, I'm cool with them giving us a straight Arseface and Hitler episode as like
Right.
episode 8 to be like a little bit of a filler, so that they don't rush the storyline.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that's what they're thinking they're gonna do. I think because they're holding those two guys off so much.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But I think
we're
their
almost
plan is
5 episodes in.
I think
without
their
seeing
plan is
it.
to give us like that as like episode 5 or 6, and very similarly, that's what's going to happen. But it's going to be placed there to push things out to land at episode 10. You know what I mean, for Grandma.
Right.
And I agree with you because it's like, you know, it feels like to stretch out Grandma for that many more episodes from where we are now. It means you guys got to establish some more running around and some other stuff has to happen to make it last, make it stretch out to that point. You know what I mean? Because it feels like the clock is ticking. Like this is winding down. If Cassidy's gone, it's like all got to start going sour real soon. But that feels like you said, it feels like that would actually kind of like the timing of it, the pacing feels like it would leave like 2 episodes.
Right. So just to get more into it, like now we have going forward next week, we have to have a conflict between Jessie and Jody because Cassidy's not around anymore. So
right.
If that's gonna be the spark that ignites the main feud between them, then that's fine with me, and that's justified in my opinion. You know, that's a perfect MacGuffin for them to start the fight between Grandma Jessie, Tulip, and Jody.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably going to stretch it out. They're probably going to do a lot of stuff where it's like Grail, and then
we know we're going to get
Hitler,
Grail next week.
Yeah, they're in the preview for next week, and the tease of the clip because they always show a preview clip.
Yep.
So if you figure that, okay, so let's say it's Jessie and those storylines plus the Grail next week,
right? And
then maybe like the week after you get another one where it's like Jessie and the gang plus Arseface and Hitler, let's say. So that puts you at episode 6, and then you got 4 more. Like, you know what I mean? Unless some other new storyline comes in to kind of like pad it up.
God help me, I hope there isn't.
Well, you know what? And I'm thinking now you start bringing in the Cassidy stuff that we know it's going to come.
Oh, yeah,
that's going to stretch it out a little bit.
You're absolutely right.
I think it's going to time out, just to where it's going to feel like it's getting a little long on the tooth probably just as it wraps up. It's like, okay, it was just about getting to the point where like, you guys are like running it in place a little bit. Because how long can they just drag out Jessie down there by himself running the tombs? You know what I mean? Unless he starts a fucking a war between the Boyds, who have like 60, 70 people,
right?
Versus TC and Jody and Grandma and me, for you guys can't. And another thing too is like he's got to get the word back, like by the end of the season, by the time to use it in the last episode, because what's great in the book is that he gets it back. Because it's gone for different reasons in the book, but he gets it back, and then him and Jody go to fight, and it's like, you're going to use your tricks on me?
Yeah.
And he's like, nope,
yeah.
we're going to go hand to hand, and it's like this cool, last big fight between the two of them as the house burns.
You're right. You know what? Now you got me thinking I'd even be actually more okay with having Jessie and Tulip get away for a second.
Right.
For an episode or something like that. But now I'm thinking that's not really possible because the spell that Grandma put on him.
Well, here's the thing, too, is that in the comic, the thing that happens is that the two of them get taken, they're tied up, and they get this whole night to kind of talk and shit. And Jessie gives her the whole rundown of what happened with his parents. And you don't get the story of the lighter. That comes later.
Yeah.
But you know of it. But you don't know the history on it. But, it's his dad's. And so we could end up having an episode like that. That could end up being a bottle episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like the two of them do end up tied up, and it's like, we're going to wait to figure out what to do with you in the morning when Grandma gets back from the quilt convention or whatever she does. And so they have like this time where like maybe we will get like an extended episode of like all this fucking ancient history.
Right.
Which is conveniently the name of the chapter of the book.
Right.
So I feel, and that's another thing that could pad it out, to help stretch out the time.
It's just hard because the mediums are different,
Oh yeah.
It's hard to really do the flashbacks like they do in the comic, but I'm so game for like a full episode or as much flashbacks as we can in the show, because I feel like the show doesn't really do enough of that.
Yeah.
And the comic was really heavy with that shit, and is almost what makes the comic so good to me, because you like no other story you really get entrenched in Jesse's character because of how much you get explained to you.
Yeah, and this show feels like a show where like they want to shift it every 10 minutes. Like you don't stay in any scene or any like person's storyline for like longer than like 10 minutes or so. Like, you know what I mean? So to actually have like a true bottle episode where it's like all about one person, it's all from their point of view, or it's a flashback episode from beginning to end. Like that's what I feel like this show could use. Like that's what I always thought was going to happen with Save the Killers. Like we would just get one episode where it was his entire story.
Right.
And it would be like a standalone thing, maybe with a little bookendy kind of scenes.
Yep.
But but I'll take that because that's what I think is the thing. Like, if we are going to get the flashback of his parents, and that backstory, and have it mean something, if we're going to save time and bring those actors back in and show them and stuff, this is the only time you can do it. Yeah. There's the only time it makes sense to tell that story is while
this is
we're
when you
here.
have to fucking do
That's
it.
what
if
I
you're
mean.
Gonna do it.
That's what I mean. Like while we're here in Angelville,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do it 2 seasons from now or something. So just give us an episode and stretch out your fucking season.
Yeah.
And
hey, I mean, prior to this season, I was kind of thinking that maybe the Angelville storyline would be something that was sprinkled across like 2 or 3 seasons. But now that they have like this bond of Jesse to the land, there's really no way that he can leave. So we can't have Jesse and Tulip escape and then come back to kill them like they do in the comic,
Yeah,
so like that we already know that that has to get wrapped up within
that's kind of the way
season.
it goes. Like when they get out, when they break out of their bond, because I checked it all out again. When they break out of their bonds, it's pretty much on. Like you know what I mean. She's dead. She comes back. Jesse gets out of whatever hold he's in.
Right.
Actually, he's in like a. He's rocked by her death, and he's like in a coma, like he's in like an awake kind of blank state, and they just put him in this other room, and then like Tulip's conversation with God, he's like, okay, I'll give him his power back, and then she comes back to life, he comes back, they pretty much like 2 Terminators walking through the house, killing people, and then
and hey, in that too, she had like an army at the house.
She had a couple extra guys.
In this, it's just TC and Jody.
Yeah, I think they'll do the similar thing, like in the comic, where all of a sudden is like, oh, there's 2 other guys with cowboy hats in the background to get shot, like out of nowhere. Like I'm sure they'll do that too. It's like, oh, they were like helpers on the land or something. It's like the gardener and the garbage guy. You know what I mean? So I mean, I feel like we're gonna get. Like I was saying earlier, this is a thing where it's like, it's all about either doing a remix, everything's like a remix of the book, or it's about like, yeah, you're going to get it, but we're going to stretch it out, or we're going to tease it and then bring it in later.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the thing. You just kind of got to like,
It's a slow burn, man. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'm having more fun now.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's a much more put together show than it ever was right now. I feel like everything's running on all cylinders right now. I think it's fully hit its stride as a TV show.
Yeah.
I just really wish that I didn't have the comic in the back of my head throughout the whole entire episode, because if I didn't have that each week, I'd really be obsessed with the show, because I think it's a good show. They're doing some cool things on it. Like I said earlier, I think the storyline right now with the tombs, and like that whole
angle, that whole kind of storyline.
It's a weird story, like it could be its own standalone thing. It could make it on its own as a show or a book or a movie.
Yeah, it feels like a thing that even though it's one of the few things that's like works for me that they kind of put in, and it's actually a big piece in this season.
Huge.
Like, you know what I mean? And so the fact that it works is kind of like a surprise a little bit. Because so much of the other stuff that they shoehorned in kind of sometimes didn't feel.
Absolutely.
But I think that goes to what you said about this season. It feels like they've kind of they know their rhythms and shit like that, or maybe it's a locale. But overall, I think a part of it for us is probably that, like, one of the things you said earlier before we started was that, like, this is the season where it feels the closest to the book so far, and if this kind of percentage of on on the mark was being used in previous seasons, we probably wouldn't have had as much
Yes.
of a hard time with those
Right.
seasons.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Obviously, to go with the way they did with season 1, you couldn't have done it any other way than just make up shit. But you know how we all feel about that. So I guess that's gonna wrap it up. Unless you got something else, buddy.
That's it for me, man. I'm really looking forward to next week. I just hope they don't let me down at this point because I'm actually pretty up about the show and where it's going. So I really have no complaints at this point.
I like the sound of that. So, so that's going to wrap it up. Like I said earlier, you can follow us on Twitter. Dom's at Dom_Torre, Torre. I'm at Wicked Theory. This show is at Preach vs. Preach. Check out the Wicked Theory podcast. That's another show that we do. It's all kinds of pop culture news, not safe for work, straight out of New York City. It's the best way to put that. Pop and culture with a rubber chicken since 1803.
That is correct.
And you can find me there, Brother Bob, my buddy Ed from DC TV Report, Uncle Jay. Dom's been known to be there once in a while. I'll let that linger. What did it say? No,
Hey, it's true.
Hey, it's true. And yeah, I guess that's going to do it. So follow us wherever you get your good podcasts. We'll be there too. And until the end of the world, kids, stay out of trouble. Or something.
Send us emails.
Send us emails. We like those.